It starts with one.
Thank you for coming to the show tonight. This is 2022, the beginning of the end. Please welcome to the stage, Vladimir McTavish.
Last week of the Fringe. It's nice to still come out, and good. I always like to find out a bit about my audiences. I always like to find out who's seen me before. And give me a cheer. Yay! Half a dozen people. Some of whom sound quite enthusiastic. Others sound like, oh, that was the only option at 7:10. People who haven't seen me before just trying to work out what the fuck it is you've paid to see during a cost of living crisis. And quite frankly, some of you think, oh, fuck. Is this guy from the past or the future? It's all gone wrong for Billy Idol, isn't it? Annie Lennox isn't looking too good after that ill-advised operation. And I will say this now, in case you're thinking, I'm not 100% convinced that I'm carrying off this haircut. I know, it's ridiculous. I actually asked for this. That's the ridiculous thing. I think the person I asked actually had a duty of care. Tell me what I was asking for was going to make me look an utter tit, but fuck, no. It just looks like somebody's pissed in a thistle, doesn't it? Good, so we got something. I also like to find out a bit about you guys, where you're from. You can tell by... I'm Scottish, obviously. Do we have other Scottish people? Give me a cheer. Oh, quite full. Yeah, good. Where about you guys from? Glasgow. Oh, good. You made a trip through. Excellent. That's good. Where are the non-Scots? Make some noise. Hey, good. And you're probably trying to place my accent, because all Scottish people probably sound the same to you, don't they? Yes. Well, you might be able to tell by the way I talk that I'm pissed. No, I'm not. I'm from Glasgow, which, as you know, mate, is a very similar condition, but not mutually exclusive. Yeah, I'm from Glasgow. And I stay in Edinburgh. This is my home. I've been here for a number of years. I moved here because of my wife. She's still in Glasgow, so that's working out pretty much gone. Joke number one. Don't worry, there's another 2 coming in the next hour. Value for 12 quid. I really ought to say something about the show. I'll explain the title as much as anything else. It's 2022, the beginning of the end. Now, this, in January, when I first came up with the concept and I first had to write my Fringe entry, this was meant to be an optimistic show. And it was meant to be an optimistic title. It was meant to be looking at the fact that the pandemic was hopefully in the rear-view mirror. We kind of reached the beginning of the end of COVID, and that was meant to be something to celebrate. Then right about the end of February, I regretted 2 things. Firstly, adopting the stage name of Vladimir roughly 25 years ago. And secondly, the title of this show suddenly looked pretty apocalyptic. But then, start of July, a man who's done me a lot of favours over the last 3 years, he's pretty much written all my shows, Boris Johnson came to my rescue once again. And so the title is now, once again, an optimistic title as we look at the beginning of the end of Boris Johnson, although fuck knows when the end of Boris Johnson is ever actually going to be. Now, can you think about it? We're, 2.5 years into this decade? I mean, we've been through a lot, haven't we? We've seen pretty much every horseman of the apocalypse has made an entry 2.5 years into the decade. And, you know, we've had a war, we've had a plague, we've had everything else, yeah? And what we've forgotten because of all of this is the UK was fucked at the start of 2020. Then we had a global pandemic. But the only thing could have made this country in a worse state than it was 2.5 years ago would have been if enough members of the royal family had been wiped out by coronavirus, so Prince Andrew ended up being the king, eh? Yeah. Been through a lot this decade, and in the UK we've done it under the watch of the worst Prime Minister in history. And so for the benefit of the people from overseas and for the people from the UK who've not been paying full attention over the last 3 years, here's a rundown of some of the highlights of the Boris Johnson years. In October 2019, 4 months into Boris Johnson's reign as Prime Minister, there are demands for a second referendum on European entry. This is because Boris Johnson has said he'd rather die in a ditch than postpone Brexit, and people want that to be the choice on the ballot paper. January 2020. Boris Johnson comes back from Brussels with an oven-ready deal with Europe. 2.5 years later, it becomes painfully obvious the guy doesn't know how to turn on a cooker. March 2020. A bunch of posh tits come back from a skiing trip to Italy, bringing a deadly virus into the UK, which goes on to kill nearly 200,000 people, most of whom could never afford to go skiing themselves in the first place. Boris Johnson says there's no need to panic, he's not going to shut down pubs, and he himself is going to get to the bottom of the toilet roll crisis. Boris Johnson then decides he does need to shut down pubs, but promises to send coronavirus packing in 12 weeks. The country goes into lockdown. Every day seems the same. People keep saying, this sounds a bit like Groundhog Day, then realise they'd said it the day before and the day before that. In April, Boris Johnson partially fulfills a pledge written on the side of a bus 4 years previously, namely to raise more money for the NHS. He does this by convincing a 99-year-old war veteran to endlessly walk up and down his own back garden. In May, having failed to send coronavirus packing in 12 weeks, Boris Johnson has to come up with Plan B. Plan B is pretending to be infected with it himself. How could you diagnose Johnson with COVID? The man's a walking list of every single known symptom. Sweaty, out of breath, looks like a bag of shit, totally lacking any sense of taste whatsoever. In June, as the UK death toll reaches 50,000, Boris Johnson decides it's time to reopen pubs in England, while there's still enough potential customers alive. In July, Chancellor Rishi Sunak launches Eat Out to Help Out, doling out millions of £10 meal vouchers, encouraging people to pack into busy pubs and restaurants, thereby providing a much-needed kickstart to the second wave of the pandemic. In September, Boris Johnson decides that pubs are actually very dangerous places, unless you can get a substantial meal. This leads to a debate in government about what actually is a substantial meal. Michael Gove says a Scotch egg is a substantial meal. Matt Hancock disagrees and says no, it would have to be at least a Scotch egg and chips. This gives rise to a misconception that chips prevent the spread of coronavirus. In November, COVID denier Donald Trump, having caught COVID and refused to leave the White House and not self-isolating, loses the US election and won't leave the White House, thereby self-isolating more than he should have been when he should actually have been self-isolating. Trump refuses to accept defeat and spends the next month on the golf course. So, very much like Adolf Hitler, his career comes to an end in a bunker. There you go. In December, the vaccine rollout starts. There are all kinds of batshit crazy conspiracy theories on the internet about the vaccine. One is that vaccines might contain chips. Boris Johnson says this shows the vaccine is also a substantial meal. Into 2021. In January, Joe Biden is inaugurated as the next president of the USA, but Donald Trump boycotts the ceremony. Only the second time in living memory the previous president hasn't been there to witness the handing over of power to the next one. The last time this happened was in 1964 for the inauguration of Lyndon B. Johnson, and most people agree that JFK had a pretty watertight excuse. In March 2021, we reached the first anniversary in lockdown. Back in lockdown. People are tempted to say this feels a bit like Groundhog Day, but then they realise they've been saying that every day for the last year. In June 2021, after a seemingly endless wait of 23 years, the Scotland football team eventually take part in the final stages of a major international tournament. 23 years of disappointment ends up in 10 days of disappointment. The only glimmer of light being the heroic 0-0 win against England, which encourages 250,000 Scotland fans to go down to London without tickets to the game. They form an alcoholic scrum in Leicester Square, don't wear face masks, lick each other on the chin, do everything they've been told definitely not to do for the last 18 months. So, sadly, the only thing Scotland take away from the European Championships is a new strain of coronavirus. In November 2021, there are rumours and speculation in the press about illegal lockdown parties that might have happened at 10 Downing Street the previous Christmas. Boris Johnson describes this as a whole load of rhubarb, whatever the fuck that means. He says nobody told him about any parties. There definitely wasn't any parties happening. No one even told him he actually lived in 10 Downing Street. It's time to draw a line in the sand, move on, and focus on the job in hand. In January 2022, there are further rumours and speculation and eyewitness accounts of illegal lockdown parties in 10 Downing Street in Christmas 2020, which involved people taking cocaine to the toilets, falling asleep in the garden, and sending some poor guy down to the local Sainsbury's with an empty suitcase to get more booze. Boris Johnson says this was just a Zoom quiz that got out of hand. He doesn't know anything about it. He was at Peppa Pig World at the time. No one should be punished about this. It's time to draw a line, move on, and focus on the job in hand. In February, as tensions in Eastern Europe grow, Boris Johnson decides the best way to deal with Vladimir Putin is to send Liz Truss over to Moscow. What a cracking idea. The Foreign Secretary spends 3 days prancing around Red Square wearing a ridiculous fur hat, taking selfies like the mother of the bride on a hen weekend. Does it stop the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Of course it fucking doesn't. In March, after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Boris Johnson flies out for talks with President Zelensky, where he promises him more military hardware than the British Army actually possess. When someone says, who's going to pay for this now that Captain Tom's kicked the bucket? Boris Johnson issues an urgent plea to the Chelsea pensioners to see if any old guys fancy walking up and down the King's Road every Saturday afternoon. In April, Boris Johnson is issued with a fixed penalty fine by the Metropolitan Police for breaking a law that he passed in the first place. He says, this is nothing to worry about. There's no need for anyone to resign about this. No one told him it was his birthday. How the hell is he meant to know it was the same day as it was last year? That's too much of a coincidence. It's time to draw a line in the sand, move on, and focus on the job in hand. In May, Boris Johnson is caught on camera masturbating in a public place. Now, some of this is made up, right? He says he never saw the no wanking sign. Nobody told him this was against the law. No one's going to resign over this matter. It's time to draw a line, move on, and focus on the job in hand. No pun intended. June 2022. The Scotland football team take a moral stance against human rights abuses in Qatar by boycotting the 2022 World Cup. They do this in a rather novel way by playing shite against Ukraine, but showing what good-hearted people the Scots are by giving a much-needed morale boost to that beleaguered nation, unlike the fucking selfish Welsh. In July 2022, Boris Johnson's government begins to look like a piece of IKEA furniture. One nudge and the whole cabinet falls apart. Ministers line up to either resign or tell Boris Johnson to resign. Finally, Michael Gove tells Boris Johnson to resign. This prompts Boris Johnson to do the one popular thing he's ever done in government, i.e. sacking Michael Gove. He says he definitely won't resign. Next day, Boris Johnson resigns, thereby triggering a Tory leadership campaign which begins to resemble a rather grotesque reality TV show where a bunch of faceless non-entities battle it out for their place in the sun, boiling down to a riveting head-to-head between Rishi Sunak, a man who looks like he should be actually taking part in The Apprentice, And Liz Truss, a woman who, quite frankly, would be out of her depth working behind the customer services counter in Morrison's. This is such a riveting contest that even the person chairing the TV debate pretends to fall asleep. What a fucking mess. The idea of Liz Truss being Prime Minister is, quite frankly, fucking chilling. It's Thatcher without the brains. No, Thatcher was fucking evil, but at least she was intelligent. Liz Truss is fucking evil and thick as two short planks. Even her own father can't stand her. I don't know how many people know about this. Google John Truss if you don't believe me. John Truss, he's her father. He's a retired university professor with quite left-wing views. And he's not talked to her since he joined the Tory party. And he's come out publicly and said he doesn't think Liz Truss is fit to be the next Prime Minister. Imagine putting your own dad as a reference in a job application. You know, no, fine, don't touch them with a barge pole. How many of the Scottish people know that she claims to have spent part of her childhood in Paisley? Fucking... Yeah, father's a university professor. She claims to have lived in fucking Paisley. I mean, it's possible he was a professor at Paisley University, because that was a thing at the time, until they realised it was such an oxymoron, they better change the name. Fucking Paisley. This is the other thing. How did she get out of Paisley without getting stabbed? But also the process this country is going through to elect the next Prime Minister, quite frankly, makes China look like a democracy. 10,000 people in Scotland are going to choose the next Prime Minister. That's roughly what they think the membership of the Tory party in Scotland is, 10,000. How can you get them at St Mirren home game? Oh, jeez. No, it doesn't stop Liz Truss being opinionated about Scotland's future, does it? No, she keeps on banging on and saying, oh, we can't have another independence referendum. Oh, no, that's hell. No, we've got to keep the union together. The union is like a family. Oh, yeah, is it like your family, Liz? Even your own father fucking hates you. You see, this would be an unacceptable state of affairs if he lived in normal times. We don't live in normal times. We seem to have wandered sideways into a bizarre parallel universe in this country now, where Dominic Cummings lectures us about integrity and honesty and ethics in public life, and Matt Hancock's a fanny magnet, and Amanda Holden judges talent. I'd rather Amanda Holden as Prime Minister than Liz Truss, I can tell you that. No, but, you know, we're facing a major international crisis. I mean, the situation in Ukraine is very scary. And I tell you what, here's how serious Ukraine is. I never thought I'd have this thought, let alone share it with a room of strangers. Thank Christ for the common sense of American people. No. Well, that's a serious comment. No, seriously, I'll explain. It does require explanation. No. Thank Christ for the common sense of American people on one particular day in November 2020 not re-electing Donald Trump. Because, the world's pretty scary now with one unhinged megalomaniac with the finger on the nuclear button. How much bloody terrifying it would be with two of them. We can only speculate about what Trump might have done by now. He might well have pressed the nuclear button. Thankfully, Joe Biden has forgotten where he's put the nuclear buttons. Well, darndest thing, I put it down somewhere, see. When I took the job, they said, keep a hold of that thing, sir, keep it safe, because, you might have to eat it sometime in the next 4 years, so... I'll put it somewhere really safe. I'll put it in that bowl by the front door where I keep the car keys, because that's a pretty safe... I've never had my car stolen, so I figured that was a pretty safe place. Well, they said, CIA said, no, sir, that's not a secure enough location. You gotta put it somewhere really safe and write down where you put it so you don't forget. So I wrote down where I put it, and I wrote that in a Post-it note, and I stuck that Post-it note to the refrigerator, but God damn it, I've forgotten where the refrigerator is. So it's equally worrying is the fact that Britain has nuclear missiles. Very worrying for the people of Scotland, particularly. And the man with his finger on Britain's nuclear button was sacked in disgrace over a month ago, and he's been allowed to stay on till the start of September. Unless you're fucking sacked from your job, didn't matter if you got a good reference or not, you're allowed to stay on for 2 months. You fucking dick around like anything, wouldn't you? You stick your cock in the photocopier of. Mind you, Johnson probably did that at a Christmas party in 2020. Now, when he's missed his Churchill moment, Boris Johnson, I think that's what he thought he was going to get in the Ukraine. He thought he was going to be seen as Churchill. Because he's a deluded oaf, Boris Johnson. He actually thinks he's the reincarnation of Winston Churchill. Oh, fuck. I mean, Winston Churchill was a thoroughly unpleasant man, but in his defence, he knew how to run a country in a crisis, and he did that by surrounding himself with very, very able people of a variety of political opinions. Boris Johnson has surrounded himself with a bunch of utter no-marks. See, I don't trust politicians who don't look like politicians. Dominic Raab does not look like the Deputy Prime Minister. Dominic Raab looks like he should be the manager of a branch of the Carphone warehouse in Slough. Grant Shapps, fuck's sake, man, his name sounds like a rather unpleasant bowel condition. I'll go to Grant Shapps. Grant Shapps Transport Secretary. His big idea for solving the cost of living crisis is he wants the MOT not to be an annual test anymore. You just need one every 2 years. I mean, wait a minute, your MOT only costs about 40 quid unless there's something wrong with your car. Fuck, that's not really going to solve the cost of living crisis. It's going to make people feel rather unsafe. Imagine you had to walk to a food bank because of the cost of living crisis. You're going to feel better off because some guy with defective brakes and dodgy steering can plough into you on the pavement. It kind of sums up this government, that idea, doesn't it? A clapped-out vehicle, never getting out of first gear, veering from one side of the road to the other and ploughing into a brick wall. See, the other difference between Johnson and Churchill is Churchill had very good speechwriters. And he could remember his lines. Johnson, those COVID briefings, Johnson had fucking forgotten what he'd been told to say by the time he got the microphone. He just bumbled his way through. Seen that one where he couldn't even say contact testing. World-beating, what was the world-beating of world-beating contact test, world-beating contact test, something like that. World-beating test, wash your hands. Churchill, though, it doesn't matter what age you are, but aware of some of Churchill's wartime speeches. They lifted the spirits of a nation in its darkest hour. Never before, in the field of human conflict, has so much been heard to so many by so few. Well, those inspiring words, aren't they? Especially when you consider they were spoken by a functioning alcoholic. Doing a really bad impression of Winston Churchill. Churchill was one of the earlier exponents of what we now call fake news. We think fake news is a new thing. It's been around forever, fake news. And a lot of fake news in World War II, a lot of fake news in World War I. But actually, fake news has been around since the beginning of time. The Bible. It's fake news, isn't it? That shows how much faith Matthew, Mark, Luke and John had in Christ's core message of love thy neighbour as thyself, which was a good message. No, we can't sell this without making up some shite he never did. Pretend he walked on water. I'll get them. Let's say he fed 85,000 people with 2 biscuits. That's too far. Tone that down a bit. There'll be a second coming of Christ. The Bible actually says that. There'll be a second coming of Christ. I reckon if there is a second coming of Christ, he'll come back as an internet influencer. Trying to sell his stuff on YouTube and Instagram. People often ask me how my hair is still so flowing and lush after spending 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. Well, I can recommend this special Dax hair and beard oil. It hydrates the follicles and protects against the harmful UV rays of the sun. Walking on water, that sounds pretty tough, huh? Not if you get these new sandals from Nike. Their air cushion technology makes you look like you're floating across the Sea of Galilee. Ever invited a couple of buddies around for a bite to eat and 5,000 people turn up? That's embarrassing, huh? How do you cope with that one? Well, if you download this app from Deliveroo onto your phone, 3,000 university graduates on 0 hours contracts will cycle up steep hills with fridges on their back, delivering out food to you and your friends. The Last Supper, that's part of the Bible. The Last Supper now is the basis for the most important ritual in the Christian church, isn't it? You know, the communion. And what we're told happened at the Last Supper is that Christ broke the bread, handed it round his disciples and said, "This is my body. Eat this and think of me. For in the morning, one of you will betray me." Then he poured the wine. He said, "This is my blood. Drink this and think of me. For in the morning, one of you will betray me." That to me sounds like the kind of paranoid ramblings of a coked-up gangster in a come-down. Hey, my blood. Go on, fucking drink it. Drink my blood. Yeah, you know what you're gonna do when you're drinking my blood? Fucking thinking of me. Because in the morning, one of you 12 bastards is gonna fucking betray me. It's a good thing they were drinking red wine that night, I think. A totally different story if they'd been on the Pinot Grigio, wouldn't it? This is my piss. Drink it. Drink my piss. You know what you're gonna do when you're drinking my piss? That piss is sliding down your throat. You're gonna be fucking thinking of me. Because in the morning, one of you cunts is gonna fucking betray me. Bloody good thing it wasn't Bailey's Irish Cream they were drinking. That is the second cheapest joke in the show, by the way, isn't it? No, back to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and the one we haven't really addressed yet is the fact that the fucking planet is on fire, isn't it? Effectively, I mean, parts of the world we didn't think would have wildfires. I mean, the whole planet's just utterly just gone bananas, isn't it? And, you know, that's the most important issue we have to deal with as well as climate change. You know, the future of the planet is the most important thing we have. Everything else will be resolved, but there's no point in resolving it if there's no planet, right? And I care about the future of the planet, and I shouldn't. No, it's none of my business. No, nothing to do with me whatsoever, future of the planet. Fuck all to do with me. I'm 62, and I'm from Glasgow. Statistically, I died 5 years ago. That's young people. Young people are angry about climate change, and rightly so. Because my generation's known about climate change, just not done anything about it, but talked about it. And it's right that young people are angry. I mean, look at Greta Thunberg. What an inspiration she is. And she's such a familiar figure on the world stage now. We've forgotten how young she was when she started the whole climate emergency movement. She was 16. Amazing thing to do, 16 years old. No, amazing, yeah, incredible. And I've got to be honest, like, when she first came in the scene, I was very impressed with her, but I actually forgot her name. So I had to Google her. And that is why 16-year-old Swedish schoolgirl is in my browsing history. I do drive a car. Again, I'm quite impressed with my own carbon footprint, though. As a motorist, I am now 75% carbon neutral. 75% carbon neutral. Now, some of you think, ooh, how do you do that? 75%. Well, for the sake of the environment, I'll let you into my secret. How I've become 75% carbon neutral is I've run up 9 points on my driving licence. Yeah, I am 3/4 of the way to being 100% carbon neutral. And if I get shit-faced after the show, get in my car and fancy a night out in Glasgow, I could get net zero before Harthill services. No, as I said at the start, I wanted this to be an optimistic show. Events have kind of got in the way, but no, we still have much to be optimistic about. I mean, the fact that we've now got the Edinburgh Fringe back, full-size Edinburgh Fringe back for the first time in 3 years. We had a scaled-down version last year, and it's great to see some of the fantastic entertainment you can get in the streets of Edinburgh at this time of year, which you can. I mean, there's a lot of shite out there as well. Don't know if anyone's had their afternoon ruined by the silent disco. Oh, what a prick. Oh, fucking hell. It's difficult to describe the silent disco. It's kind of prick in day-glow clothing. These are a band of tone-deaf morons about the city wearing headphones, singing Bohemian Rhapsody out of tune, ploughing through busy traffic, sadly never ever getting hit by a bus. You're kind of like a Piper of Bell Ends. But this whole industry that we're in, I mean, this was pretty much closed down for a year and a half. I couldn't do this for a year. I actually had to work from home. Doing this. I'm doing this from home. Didn't anyone watch any live comedy on the online, any online comedy? One person. That kind of backs up the market research I did over an 18-month period. I did an online show every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Me and two other guys. Well, I say two other guys. Quite often it was one of them would just disappear. You'd be halfway through a bit, and because the three of us could see each other on the screen, then this Dave would just disappear. What the fuck's happened to Dave? And he's going to come back into the screen about half an hour later, quite clearly having had a couple of drinks. He said, "Oh, guys, dodgy Wi-Fi, sorry about that." "Yeah, fuck off, Dave." Unplugged the router and went to the kitchen and got pissed. I used to pretend there's stuff wrong with my Wi-Fi. I was going to be halfway through a piece of material and I'd go... Every Thursday night, 8 p.m, we broadcast to the World Wide Web. Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to how many people watch that show on the World Wide Web? You have a guess, mate? 1,000? Fuck off! It was 4. Fucking 4. I mean, that was the core audience that watched every single week. 4 people. There were other people who watched now and again. I think, oh man, this is shit. One guy's disappeared for half an hour. 4 people. Now, I will give them this. They were worldwide. The global reach we got with that handful of people was quite remarkable. But a woman called Christy Shields, a big comedy fan, she'd tune in every Friday morning, her time, from Melbourne, Australia. We had an American comedian called Kimmy D from San Diego in California. She'd tune in at lunchtime, her time. We had a guy who called himself Liam Greenjacket. Fuck knows what bloody planet that guy was on. Narnia or something like that. And we had Gary from Peterborough. So the guy actually called himself Gary from Peterborough. It kind of negates the fact you're on the internet. And you can be fucking anywhere, can you? Oh, he's decided he's Gary from Peterborough. Oh, no imagination whatsoever, Gary from Peterborough. Because, let's say, you could comment on screen, now, if you're watching the show, and I'd be just looking at my laptop camera and God, this is shit. God. Bet nobody's watching this. Then a comment would come on screen from Gary from Peterborough going, "Ha, ha, 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 ha." Everybody, that was all they ever said. Ha, 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 ha. How lacking in imagination. Ha, 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 ha. I mean, I could be giving the guy a disservice. He might only have had 2 functioning keys. But even if he only had H and A, he could still have done more with it than that. Couldn't he have gone or aha, aha, aha? Fucking, I mean, never did he. Get this, we did a show on Christmas Eve. You know, want to guess what Gary from Peterborough commented on Christmas Eve? Ho, 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 ho. No, it wasn't ho, 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 ho. It was ha, 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 ha. No, I think the fact we got through lockdown and all of that and all the restrictions is something that we ought to, to celebrate in a way. I mean, obviously we've lost a lot of people, but I think when lockdown first started, it was something we'd never experienced before, and it was a bit of a journey of self-discovery. I think we all found out things about ourselves. Tell you what I found out, and it came as a huge shock about me. I used to think I was a social drinker. Nah, turns out I don't need other people at all, thank you very much. Fine doing it all on my own. And the worst moment is when they reopened beer gardens. Oh, fucking beer garden. That was grim. Booking in advance to get a wet seat. Temperature struggling to get to double figures. Beer garden. I take issue with the word garden. Who's actually ever been to a pub with a garden? An actual garden? No, smelly backyard next to the gents' toilets where they pile up the empty beer kegs and there's one plant pot that doubles as an ashtray and sometimes an emergency toilet. A fucking garden, eh? You ever get that at the Chelsea Flower Show, would you? Imagine that was your garden. You wouldn't show it off to visitors. Eh? Beer garden. The only reason you're in the beer garden is because you can't get in the pub. And the only reason you're going out at all is to meet a mate you've not seen for 4 months because they've been at home doing nothing for 4 months. And you've been in your home doing bugger all for 4 months. And paid if you decided, nice idea to have a bit of a catch-up and have a conversation about what the two of you have been doing for the last 4 months. Which remarkably turned out to be fuck all. God. The thing about drinking in the house, it was a different process, really, when you think about it. I mean, because if you're in a pub, the alcohol is dispensed by a responsible adult, isn't it? And that responsible adult has to make a series of judgment calls throughout the course of the evening, every time you go to get served, about whether you've had too much or not. And if they deem you to have had too much, they very politely tell you to get to fuck. That is by the letter, the Scottish Licensing Act 2005. Any cunt's too pissed, tell them to get to fuck. And when you're drinking in the house, I mean, you're the responsible adult dispensing the alcohol to yourself. Yeah, it comes to the time to make that judgment call about whether you've had too much. You've lost all sense of judgment. You're never going to tell yourself to get to fuck, are you? No one's ever thrown themselves out of their own house. No one's ever barred themselves from their own kitchen. Stuck their photograph in the fridge listing their antisocial behaviour. Then I read this article in a magazine. It was right in the middle of when, the media just got utterly obsessed with the whole COVID, and they always trying to find different angles on it. And you get things like, has your cat's mental health been impacted by lockdown? Are you one of Britain's booming banana bread bakers? This one said, are you becoming a pandemic problem drinker? And a questionnaire helped me find out if I'm becoming an alcoholic because I can only leave the house once a day. And I was just looking at it, Jesus, who made up these questions? It was things like, have you ever tried to stop drinking and not managed it? I mean, get a fucking life, will you? Have you ever been out for a night out and drank more than you intended to? Let's get some bloody practical questions on the go. Do you wake up in other people's front gardens with cuts and bruises all over your body? A smattering of sick down your trousers? Have you broken a limb while pissed and blamed it on fruit? Do you wake up most Sunday mornings with £25 worth of totally unexplained loose change in your trouser pocket or handbag? Have you shat yourself in public transport? If yes, what bus in Peterborough were you on at the time, Gary? Ha! No, as I said at the start, I do want to send you people away from this room tonight with hope for the future, because there is no point in... If you don't have hope, there's no point in carrying on, isn't it? And I think you can find hope in various places and parts of the world. I mean, there is a lot wrong with the world. Tragic though the situation in Ukraine is, hopefully that will resolve itself, hopefully as quickly as possible, and hopefully with little more loss of life. But the one thing we do know for certain is that situation will come to an end, and it will resolve, and Ukraine will rebuild itself. And that's not just blind optimism, that's learning from history. You look at all the places throughout the world that have been devastated by conflicts over the last 40-odd years. They've now rebuilt themselves. A lot of them are now tourist destinations. I mean, American people of my generation would never have dreamt of going on holiday to Vietnam. Well, they wouldn't, but now young people are backpacking in Vietnam. Look at something like Croatia. That's a very, very popular tourist destination now. 30 years ago, that was being torn apart by a civil war. Even closer to home than that, Northern Ireland. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have dreamt of a city break to Belfast, unless you had some extreme sectarian views. But now it's a city break destination. And if you want to really find hope, go to Berlin. I think Berlin embodies hope as a city. The first time I left the UK since the lockdown in 2020 was in April of this year. And that in itself was quite inspiring because, we all thought, well, when are we next going to be able to travel abroad? And with me, I was also thinking, when am I next going to be able to work abroad? And I was booked to do some shows in Berlin. It was marvellous just getting it back to Europe again. But Berlin itself is just such an inspiration, and it does embody hope. Because if you think of everything that city has been through in the last 100 years, and the people are so stoic, they're so gritty, they've got a marvellous sense of humour and a real sense of solidarity with one another. But you think what they've been through in 100 years. In the 1920s, the German economy was utterly devastated. People had to wheel barrels full of banknotes around because the economy was just so dreadful. And of course, Hitler capitalised on that and led to the rise of the Nazis. And that was obviously the Holocaust and World War II. Fucking shocking. And then, of course, at the end of World War II, Berlin itself was reduced to rubble. There was virtually nothing left standing in Berlin because of Allied bombing raids. And because of the Russian blockade of the city, people were starving and they had to airlift in food. And then you think, even more recently than that, Berlin had a wall running through it until like 30-odd years ago that divided one half of the city from the other, and people could be shot for trying to escape from the east over to the west. I was staying in the eastern part of the city, just opposite Ostbahnhof station, and there is a stretch of the wall remaining there. It's called the East Side Gallery. And it's a piece of curated public art. So what once was a wall that divided a city in half is now this fantastic piece of murals from some great artists from all over the world. That's the other thing about it. And behind it, what once was no man's land is now beautifully landscaped parkland going down to the river. And I was there on a spring evening, and just a balmy, beautiful spring evening, and these young people just sitting out in the grass, smoking spliffs and drinking beers, in an area that their parents, or definitely their grandparents, could potentially have been shot for trying to run through to escape to the west. That's very inspiring. But what's also inspiring about Berlin is not just the fact it's rebuilt itself several times, but the fact that the people, as I say, they're just so welcoming, but also it's got a huge artistic community. It's a very arty, very bohemian, very, very laissez-faire city. That's beautiful. I find it very difficult to leave it. But then I actually think Germany as a nation is very inspiring. Germany, as we know, has made several tragic, dreadful mistakes over the last century. But what they've done to learn from those mistakes, and now the Constitution of Germany has laws in it that will prevent those mistakes ever being made again. So, for example, in Germany, it's illegal to make a Nazi salute. It's illegal to deny the Holocaust. It's also against the law to say anything that glorifies the work of Hitler and the Nazis. Unlike the UK, well, absolutely. Really. Also, you look at Germany's immigration policy. The millions of refugees they've welcomed into their country. Unlike this country, successive Tory governments have thought of reasons not to have any refugees, and if they do let them in, pack them off to some fucking country in Africa with a dodgy human rights record. And also in this country, you still get people with a mindset rooted in World War II. I think that was a lot of the mindset behind the Brexit vote in 2016. People, they just see Europe as an enemy. You still get people in this country will come out with this ridiculous phrase, and it was very common when I was a child. If Hitler had won the war, we'd all be speaking German by now. You've heard that phrase. If Hitler had won the war, we'd all be speaking German by now. You think, really? Sounds a bit implausible. I mean, yeah. Hitler is the most evil man who ever lived. He's responsible for the deaths of millions of innocent people. He can make people do things they would never have wanted to do unless they were ordered to do so. But even Adolf Hitler could not overnight have made 50 million British people speak a foreign language in their own country just because they lost a war. I think if Hitler had won the war, we'd all be speaking English very loudly and very slowly. Yeah, that's what British people tend to speak like when they're in a foreign country. See, I'm an idiot of the other end of the spectrum. I'm not one of these people who goes into a shop in Europe and talks English slowly. No, I'm one of these people who gets a handful of phrases in a foreign language and thinks I'm fluent. And this is exacerbated by two things. Firstly, iPhone maps make you think, I know my way around this city, no problem. You see, here in Edinburgh, you see tourists going around with their iPhone maps and they think they've reached where they want to be, and then they realise where they want to be is not here, it's down there. That happens. But no, and also I trained as an actor, so I can convincingly make them think I can speak the language, and they answer back, and fuck, I hadn't actually prepared this bit. No, and it nearly got me into a lot of trouble. I was actually nearly arrested in Germany for thinking I could speak the language. I was out there doing shows. I flew out on a Thursday, EasyJet. Very cheap flights on EasyJet. I was due to fly back on the Monday on EasyJet. The only other carrier that does Edinburgh to Berlin is Lufthansa, and their flights were about 3 times as expensive. I did shows on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and I'm flying back on Monday, and I had 2 gigs in Scotland on the Tuesday, and I'm on the last EasyJet flight out of Berlin to anywhere in Scotland until the Friday, because they weren't doing midweek flights, so I had to get this flight. I was standing on platform 3 in Ostbahnhof station. I bought my ticket at the ticket machine in the concourse, where if your German isn't as good as mine, there's a little icon with the Union flag you can tap on, and it translates everything into English for you. So you know you get the right ticket. And it cost me about €8. And I'm on platform 3, and a tannoy announcement comes over in German saying that the train to the Flughafen, the airport, is going to be 10 minutes late. And I thought, that's not like the Germans, and normally very efficient. That's all right, I've got plenty of time to get my flight. 7 minutes later, a train pulled into platform 3. So that's German efficiency for you. A 10-minute late train is now only 7 minutes late. Unlike a 10-minute late British train, which would become 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late, 45 minutes late, then turn into a bus. And 4 French tourists asked me in English if this was the right train to the airport. I politely replied in French that it was. We all go on. And after about 10 minutes, I'm thinking, this doesn't look like the train we took in on Thursday. But then, I wasn't that concerned, because it's probably the wrong train to the right destination. Because that can happen. You can get the wrong train to the right destination. I mean, you know this, coming from Glasgow, you can get the wrong train from Glasgow to Edinburgh, can't you? Yeah. Oh, fucking hell, that takes up an hour and a half of your life you don't really want to lose. God almighty, I mean, the right train to Glasgow, 50 minutes via Falkirk, the wrong train to Glasgow, 90 minutes to travel 44 miles, which is scientifically impossible, but somehow ScotRail managed it by zigzagging around the badlands of West Lothian and North Lanarkshire like some kind of disabled snake with no sense of direction, stopping every 2 minutes at a series of one-horse towns, but there doesn't even seem to be a horse anymore. And you're just beside yourself, you're fucking, the minute it pulls out a Haymarket, I'm on the wrong fucking train. Shit. And 2 minutes later, it stops at some bloody bit of urban wasteland. Oh, for fuck's sake, where the fuck is this? A couple of stops later on, you say, oh, where the fuck is this? And then after about 3 or 4 stops, you realise it's not just you thinking that. You actually notice every other passenger in your carriage is actually vocalising that sentence. They're going, where the fuck is this? I've seen people getting off the train going, where the fuck is this? I know we live here, Marjorie, but where the fuck is it? So I assumed it was the German equivalent of that. I'm just on the wrong train at the airport. It's going to get me to the airport eventually. There were people wheeling suitcases on the train. That showed it was going to the airport. And then after about 40 minutes, I thought, this seemed a bit long. And we seemed to be climbing into mountains and going through forests. I thought, this is the sort of place you'd put an airport. I better ask somebody. So and then it only occurred to me, oh shit, I don't know the sentence. Is this the right train to the airport? I only know one word in that sentence, i.e. airport. Flughafen was the only word I knew in that question. So obviously I had to resort to plan B, which is sprechen English. And if the answer is yeah, well, that's fine. If the answer is nein, no, fucking all right. So I'm walking down the train saying, yeah, sprechen English? Nein. Flughafen? Just fucking blankly looked at me. Oh. Sprechen die English? Nein. Flughafen? I think she's just really confused looks I'm getting from people. Mein Herr, sprechen die English? Nein. Flughafen? Bitte, sprechen die English? Nein. Flughafen? I'm getting quite desperate by this time. Now, put yourself in the position of these very confused German commuters. Imagine you're on a train going nowhere near any airport. And there's some weird-looking old German guy coming down the centre of the train saying, do you speak German? Airport! Airport! You fucking pull the emergency lever. You'd crowdfund the £1,000 fine, wouldn't you? Then, oh, gosh, this is fucking useless. None of these... Oh, wait a minute, I'm going to go on iPhone Maps, right? So we've got iPhone Maps, and iPhone Maps very, very helpfully informs me that this train is heading towards Poland. Oh, for fuck's sake! Now, I know people have been on more traumatic train journeys from Germany to Poland, but that wasn't the forefront of my fucking mind. I'm thinking, oh God, if I end up in Poland, I can't even ask them how to speak English. I can't even fucking word of Polish. Oh, fucking hell. And then suddenly it just dawned on me, we've been on this train for an hour now. So if I get another train back immediately, I'm still going to know in any way get my connection at Ostbahnhof to get back to Brandenburg Airport any time to get my fucking flights. Oh, no, fuck's sake. Oh, God, I'm going to have to fucking get... And then finally, we pulled into a station, Frankfurt am Oder, which is on the Polish border. It's just in Germany. And oh, fucking hell. So I get off the train, go onto the concourse in the station. And in the station, no one sprechen the English either, by the way. Oh, God, I had to resort to using this German ticket machine, which didn't have the little Union flag icon. You can translate it. Oh, no, the Germans aren't as efficient as you'd like to let on. No, they're fucking just, oh, fuck. How did I bought 5 family returns to Berlin. About 80 euros. I'm thinking about, fuck's sake. And then it suddenly dawned on me, not only am I going to miss my flight, I'm going to have to fly Lufthansa the next day that's going to cost me about 300 quid. I'm also going to have to get a hotel room overnight. And then, oh shit, I've got this fucking gigs on Tuesday. I'm going to have to cancel both of them. And I'm kind of calculating, oh fuck, this is costing me about 800 quid. All because I can't speak German. Oh, this would never have happened if Hitler had won the war. Well, really, I don't think you should have applauded that, given that tonight's show is being filmed. I think the whole of that could be taken badly out of context. Yeah, the 4 French tourists look distinctly unimpressed. They've been on the same train as Jean-Marine Le Pen's husband. And the man with Polizei on his hat, managed to be talked into letting me go. Listen, guys, you've been an absolute joy. Thank you very much for, well, one, for coming to the show. But secondly, thank you for being such an energetic audience in such a hot room, because it's fucking hot. I mean, that's why I do the bit about global warming, just to convince you it is the thing. So, oh, nah, I don't believe in global warming. Fucking do now, don't you? If you have enjoyed this evening in this hot room, can you put your hands together for my technician, Alex, tonight, who's been here? And also for his colleague, Josh, who also works in this room and is today operating the camera. Listen, guys, I know you had so many other options of things to do at 7 o'clock during the Fringe. I'm delighted this is the one you chose. Thanks a lot. You've been a marvellous crowd. Do have a lovely week and enjoy the rest of your Fringe. Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
The man from the television crawling to the train. I wonder who's gonna stick it in this town.